and welcome to VistaTalks, interesting discussions with interesting people from all around the world. I'm your host for today, Priscillia Charles, and I'm joined in Studio 1 by Kayla Kim and Kaelan Guetschow. Kayla and Kaelan, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We're absolutely delighted to have you both. Kayla and Kaelan are both intern in Vistatec marketing department and are working with Vistatec marketing for the summer. So let's move on and get to know Kayla and Kaelan, and let's move on to the show. So first, I'd like to get to know the both of you a little bit more, although we work on a daily basis together.
Yes,
but for our audience who wouldn't know you, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background, please?
Okay, so hi, my name is Kayla Kim. I come from Honolulu, Hawaii. Right now, I'm studying at USC, University of Southern California, for an applied psychology program. It's a master's program. We look at, in the context of marketing, use psychological practices to understand that field.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kayla Guetschow. I'm currently studying a marketing bachelor's degree at Edgewood College in Madison, Wisconsin. I should be graduating soon in 2020, and I'm loving what I'm doing right now, and I'm thrilled to be here at Vistatec.
Thank you guys. So now, Kayla, I'd like to turn to you and ask you first. You have a very interesting journey, study-wise. So you're you're even a family member, and we can say you're part of the Vistatec marketing team. Why this interest in marketing now, having studied psychology earlier on?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in human behavior, and marketing is very much having to do with psychology. We think about human behavior in the context of fostering exchange relationships, right? So businesses to consumers, understanding the nuances of that is very much related to psychology, and so it's not far off. So I think especially now with people of my generation really interested in doing business with companies that are geared towards social causes or values that they can relate to.
Absolutely.
Even more so now, I'm interested in marketing because of that.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much. And you, Kaelan, you started studying business at Edgewood College, as you mentioned, and you'll graduate in 2020. So what attracted you to studying, why business in the first place and why marketing?
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where I was originally going to school for audio production and design, but I kind of switched over just to business and marketing because it's a much more broad field where I could, work on like a podcast, for example, one day and then go to a conference the next day. So
Absolutely.
I really like having a field where it's going to be open and there's a lot of different opportunities for me to develop my career in.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we are delighted that both of you took
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it's
marketing
great.
path. Now, so as mentioned before, both of you are working with us in the marketing department. Tell us a little about your experience of working at Vistatec.
Yeah, so I mean, exactly what you said, Kaelan. Marketing allows you to do so many things. It's a very broad subject, and so we've been able to kind of dabble in a little bit of everything, which is great. We do work with written media. We do things with online media, digital media.
Event planning.
Yep, planning, webpage design, working with different departments. All of these things.
Even digital content management, which you don't really think about as a need, but unless you have somewhere to put it, it's going to get unorganized. So we've been doing a lot of that. Video production, audio production, really just kind of learning exactly what you could do with a marketing degree after we graduate.
We really do get into the nitty-gritty of things, and it's great.
Thank you. Yes, it is certainly a very broad, if I can say, a very broad field, and we work with different departments on a daily basis, which is why I think any person interested in working in marketing, any student would want to not just necessarily focus on one particular field, but very, very curious and open, have different skills. So now tell us about what type of activities are you engaged in at Vistatec?
So one of the biggest things I'm doing right now, as you know, is Project Sparkle. And, it's about, we're trying to create videos to express the employer brand. And so we're really working with a lot of different people in the company, which is great because then I get to meet all the people at Vistatec, you know, that I don't necessarily see on a daily basis or get to talk to on a daily basis. And also I'm more involved in kind of the planning process of what it means to kind of work with a video production company and how we have to organize all these people together. There's all these working parts involved, and you know, that's a really big project that I'm excited to be working on. And that's one thing, but of course there's so many other things. We have VTQ magazine, and I'm writing a couple articles for that.
Coming up soon.
Yes, we're doing this VistaTalks right now, and just general marketing things. Daily tasks.
Daily tasks, yes.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm on the kind of more technical side of things. So I'm doing a lot of, like I said, digital content management, making sure, you know, the right pictures are in the right server, and did we upload this video to YouTube, for example? Right. And then a lot of editing too. So I spend most of my day in the Adobe suite, which has been absolutely amazing, doing, you know, photos, videos, audio, and then making sure that all of that content gets translated correctly onto the website, such as, you know, Think Little Forum, making new designs for that, and making sure everything is formatted correctly and uniformly so it all looks very smooth.
Right, and you really have to have an eye for detail.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Keen eye for detail. Yes.
So,
yeah, and we're really thankful for the both of you to have joined the team because you bring a lot of a curiosity and fantastic ideas, and that's exactly what we need. That's what I think any marketers needs to be curious and willing to, you know, to bring suggestions to the table, really, and
to
debate.
Think outside the box.
Exactly, think outside the box. Be creative. So now, I'd like to talk a little bit about your thoughts of on professional practical experience. So you're both students, right? Yes. You'll be graduating soon. How important is, you know, having a professional experience while you're studying, or before starting your first, if I can say, full-time role on your professional journey? What, according to you, what would you say?
Yeah, so I think especially for me, this is kind of my first big kind of corporate internship. So I can speak firsthand on this right now. But there are so many skills that you learn in the classroom, and of course a degree is, you know, basically pays for itself still. But what you don't really get with college is that you still need to make that transition from the classroom to the workplace. Absolutely. And doing an internship like this makes that so much easier. You know, on top of the kind of being able to apply my own skills that I've already learned. Right. I've learned about things such as like task prioritization, how to communicate in the workplace, how to kind of settle differences with coworkers. So there's just a lot of things that don't get touched on in the classroom, like I said, that you learn firsthand in an internship.
In the real world, if I
exactly. Yeah.
Right. And I have to totally agree that, you know, it's one thing to read about something or to learn about something in the classroom, read it in your textbook, but it's totally different to apply what you're learning and to be in the actual environment from what you're learning. Environment, yeah, and there's a lot of new things that you might learn in the office, or you might learn things that are kind of outdated in the classroom maybe. And, you know, every business that you're in has a different culture, has a different process to work. And so being in a place where you can practice the kind of skills that different places desire, that's really quality learning that you won't get in the classroom, I think.
Well, especially in a field like marketing. You know, if I took an intro to marketing class freshman year and then got a job 4 years later, the methodology that I could have learned and the kind of trends that I was learning about freshman year will be totally out of date by the time I graduate.
That's so true, yeah.
So it's really nice to kind of like build the two ends of the bridge together, I guess.
Right. And for me, coming from counseling to marketing, it's very different. And so being able to put myself in this perspective, same like you, this is my first company that I'm working for that's a big corporation, you know, that works with big companies. And it's been kind of a whirlwind for me as well. So, yeah, it's been valuable experience that I'm going to take on with me.
Well, we're delighted to be able to bring you this experience and to have you on board again. Now, speaking of experience, what do you find the most challenging in your internship? That's I know it's more tough one.
We kind of touched on the task prioritization aspect of it, but when you're working on, again, that's the nice thing about marketing is that you're working on so many different projects all at once, so you never really get bored.
Right.
But then again, you need to learn how to schedule those things. You need to learn how to schedule meetings. You need to know, like, when is this due? I mean, it's almost like a classroom. I mean, if something's overdue, there's real world consequences to that. So it's nice to have the internship right now where we can kind of make those little mistakes here and there.
Right.
Rather than the kind of high stakes, I don't know. I'll give Google as an example. If I graduate and go work somewhere like there, that's a very high intensity position usually. And so it really helps to kind of make these small mistakes, as I said, before that.
Yeah, because as long as you make the mistakes but have the willingness to learn from it, that's the important part. Yeah, and I do think that the challenges that you mentioned definitely ring true for me as well. But the other part of it I'm realizing is kind of the uncertainty that I feel being in a position that I'm so unfamiliar with. You know, it feels like there's a lot of risk, and so I feel sometimes very vulnerable. I don't know, really. I get very unsure of myself, but you know, that's something that I'm coming to realize I need to work around. You know, gaining more confidence in the field.
Personally speaking, it's great.
So like to that last question, that's another reason why it's important to get practical experience, because then you can grow that confidence.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, because here at Vistatec and in the marketing team, everybody takes a project on board, and we're delighted to be able to, you know, to let you, you know, bring initiatives, you know, and ideas to the table. So obviously, you know, when you take on a project, you know, you're responsible for it, and it can be a bit challenging, you know, when you come from a different industry, or you know, or it's one of your first work experiences.
You don't really know the dynamics of the office or anything like that. Yeah.
So it can be a challenge, and I think everybody goes through this at first. So which is why you know, those type of experiences are very valuable.
Yeah, 100%.
So yes. So now, what has been your best experience so far in the company and
okay, yeah, I'll go first. Yeah, so I mean, what comes to mind immediately is pride. You know, as a person, as a bisexual woman, I was very proud to be a part of this process with Vistatec. I think that there's a lot of controversy with companies trying to jump onto this bandwagon for the profitability of marginalized groups, like the LGBTQ plus community. But I think Vistatec did a really good job, because everything we did was internal, and it was just, we took some time out of the day to be able to have some coffee, eat some delicious donuts, wear our most colorful garb, and just celebrate together and have conversations and connect. And it was a really easy way for people to come together and just, you know, people who don't usually talk to each other to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it was a very nice space, and that was probably a really nice experience. And also, we joke about this a lot, but I kind of, how should I say this? Piggybacked on another person's blog post for Pride. And that was really powerful for me, because, again, as a person in this group, I was able to contribute on a piece that was very meaningful to me. So that was a good experience.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What about you, Kaelan?
I would say even the week that we're recording this, just doing the two kind of field pieces that we've done. So, I mean, today, obviously, we're in the studio recording the VistaTalks podcast, but on Monday, we went out and did some interviews for the Machine Translation Summit in, I believe, August.
Taking place at the end of August.
So it was really cool to kind of see how content can be created on the fly, not just in the office.
Right.
But on top of that, I come from a very kind of audio production background. Been playing, you know, music for years, so it's really nice to be in a recording studio again. It feels just like home. But on a kind of more theoretical and kind of dynamic level, just the fact that I've been able to be so engaged with bring initiatives and ideas, and it's been so easy to just kind of communicate that, and they really get listened to. So I mean, that's been really, really nice. So I've worked places before where it hasn't been that case, and it feels really nice to just kind of debate things instead of just getting shot down right away.
Absolutely,
yeah. And it does, you know, and that's how you get to a place where you get more confident in this kind of area, where you have, you know, supportive people who value your thoughts, value your ideas.
Absolutely.
And I have to agree that I feel that way here as well. And, you know, it is a nice experience, because then you can hash out all the things that you think are relevant. And, you know, not every time your ideas are going to stick, but, you know, it's understanding
100%.
But then you learn why this works, and you kind of break down the idea with everyone. So it's very much a collaborative process, which I really appreciate.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. Yes, that's exactly the feeling that I got, yes, since I've been at Vistatec. So now, talking about student experience, why would you recommend the company to any other student interested in applying at Vistatec? We're talking about like how valuable it is for you, and for us, for the company as well. What would you say?
Yeah, so I mean, especially if you're applying as an intern, it's a very good kind of first internship that I've found. I mean, it's big enough where it kind of mirrors a tech company like, the Googles of the world. But it's not so big where you feel like you can drown. I mean, I know most people on the floor that we're located on at this point. And it still feels like everyone kind of knows everyone. There's a sense of community around it. Yeah. So if you want a good first internship where you're not going to get kind of just lost in the noise, as they say. Exactly. It's a great opportunity for that.
Yeah, I think one of the most salient things about this internship, from the get-go, I was told, this is not going to be an internship where you just run around getting people coffee. You're actually going to be invested in projects. You're going to be working hard.
Content that you can put your name on.
Yes. So that you can leave this place with, kind of a portfolio with you of, okay, I contributed to this and I worked on this project. I helped out with this. There's going to be a bunch of content that you can take. And I think that is important. If you are going to apply for Vistatec, you need to know that you have to put the work in, and that's when you're going to get the best experience out of it,
Absolutely.
You're not just going to work 20 hours and make coffee runs.
Right. Yeah. You can't just, you're not going to be sitting around all day. If that's what you want, that's not.
You're part of the team.
Exactly.
Yeah, like everyone is in the same, in the same group. So now I'd like to talk about a slightly different topic. You're both millennial and Gen Z, right? And you're students. Yes. Social media is such an important part of our lives nowadays, right? Yes. So what would you say, what's your relationship with social media on a daily basis, and what's your favorite social media? That is such an important thing.
Yeah, that's a really good
marketing
question.
And for everyone.
Yeah. I would guess, I guess my big two are Instagram and Snapchat. I guess Facebook Messenger, if you count that as a social media app, but it's more communication on that one. But as someone who does a lot of photography work on the side, Instagram has been great for just kind of connecting me with other people, being able to keep my family updated, especially on this kind of 8 weeks that we're in Ireland. Yeah. It's been the way that my kind of family and extended family and friends have been able to see what I've been up to.
Right, and visuals are really powerful.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's like that old cliche, a picture speaks 1,000 words.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
But the other big one that I'm on constantly is Snapchat. And that's the thing that I use to communicate most with my friends back home, my friends here. Yeah. Just because it's so easy to use and it's pretty ubiquitous with people, my age and younger.
I think it's funny because we're not too far in age.
No.
But, there is definitely a difference. I find that a lot of, people your age are more into Snapchat.
Yes.
Whereas I am not so much a Snapchat person. I think my two is probably Instagram because, again, visuals are really important. And I think, like you said, it speaks 1,000 words. And it can sometimes communicate or make you feel a certain thing that you wouldn't necessarily get with words.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Instagram for sure, but also Facebook. I think Facebook, you get a lot of different variety in terms of what kind of content that can be presented and kind of the norms around the content that is presented.
Well, that's so funny because I hardly check Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe once a week.
That's very interesting. Yeah. I would be the same as you, Kayla. Yeah. Maybe the age would be the age factor would be something, but I think Snapchat came much later. For me, I think I might have finished high school already, secondary school. So I never really connected. I tried a little bit, so I would have the app but not use it really that much. But I still go to Facebook every day, and it's
so do I.
Probably one of the first things I check in the morning, as well as Instagram.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah,
because it's something that I will check all the time, but not necessarily post. I won't post all the time, but I'll definitely check in and see what content's on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
See, I really only check it when I get tagged in something or if I get a notification.
That's funny. Yeah.
It's not like habitual for me, like Instagram or Snapchat would be.
Yes, I think we all tend to use those social media for a different purpose as well.
Yeah.
I would read the news a lot through Facebook and see, you know, articles. Also go on the website itself of the newspaper, for instance. But I would use this for a lot, you know, for articles and for, I don't know, funny meme, you know, communicate a bit with my family and pictures. But I've also changed my behavior in the sense that I don't use it in the same way that I used it over 10 years ago when, you know, when I started using it when I was just out of high school, and I don't create photo albums anymore. I would use Instagram instead. So it is really interesting to see how behavior changed generation-wise. And I think also every person, you know, changes, you know.
No, and there are definitely social norms around each of these platforms. Like, I'm thinking back to a conversation we had, and you said, you know, no one really looks past 5 photos in the Instagram story.
Exactly, yes.
And that is absolutely true. After a while, people get bored. And that's definitely
one
a psychological
picture a day is powerful.
Well, I mean, and it's the kind of thing, too, where there's 24/7, there's so much information being thrown at us all the time. In order to really capture someone's attention, you need to have, you get, you know, a split second maybe of someone's attention during the day, if you're lucky.
And then there's something to say about, like, people who don't post often, but, you know, they post sometimes. It kind of captivates a lot of the friends who follow them, and it drives them towards Instagram again to look at their feed, because it's rare, and when it happens, it's good.
And the algorithm usually pushes those posts up.
Yes, it does.
You get a notification saying, you know, X person just posted for the first time in a while.
And so does Twitter. Twitter does this as well.
And that's technology molding our social norms.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So now, speaking of technology and behavior, I'd like to talk about how companies approach social media and reach out to younger audiences. What do you think? How do you think companies should reach out to and engage with younger audiences? And is there a better way to do so?
So, I mean, like I was saying before, there's so much information getting thrown at us 24/7. Even just taking, you know, the bus to this recording studio, I saw 100 ads on the side of buildings, and a place like London or New York, you're going to see ads on the underground and the Times Square, you know, flashing lights everywhere. But in the digital era, I have so many different choices where I could go spend my time. Like, I could go on Reddit, I could go on Instagram, I could go on Facebook, I could go on Snapchat. And what companies really need to do is diversify where they're advertising, using things like Google Ads, targeted ads. But also, they can't make it too long, because I'm not going to pay attention to something for more than 30 seconds. It really needs to pop. It needs to pop at me. And it needs to answer the question, why should I care about this? Because if there's so many people trying to vie for my attention and my money, I really only want to buy products that I have some vested interest in.
Exactly. We want to align ourselves with companies that share the same values that we do. You know? And how do you express that in a 2-second ad? Or how do you portray that in a photo that's going to be blown up on the side of the road? Those are kinds of things that companies need to pay attention to, and they are. But one critical thing that they need to do is, like we said earlier, ask the opinion of younger generations, because I think, you know, a lot of people get stuck in their own mindset, and it's hard to get a fresh perspective if you're constantly thinking on the same role of thought.
Exactly. And if there's a boardroom filled with, like, people, you know, 50, kind of 60, and there's no one there to say, hey, no one's gonna like that below the age of 20.
The way that younger people think.
It's the kind of, you know, cringy relatable content, as it were. The people, the companies, and I see this all the time on Twitter. It's the companies using a meme from 5-6 years ago, trying to say, hey, what's up? We're cool, we're hip. And it just kind of comes off as very plastic and outdated.
And that drives away the thing that they want. They want companies to relate to them, to trust them. But when they're trying to, for example, do an ad that shows diversity, and they show one person who is a person of color, that seems pretty obvious and artificial and fake, and that's not what younger generations want. I definitely think they want transparency and authenticity. So that's why I think you'll see people like the Kardashians become really famous. You know, because even though they're crazy, they're also showing themselves in a very vulnerable, real, kind of private way that people didn't really discuss before.
And that people
In
can
a
relate
public
to.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except they're in public.
Although I was going to
Exactly,
mention
yes.
that there was that famous kind of very misinformed ad that came out a few years ago with Kendall Jenner.
Oh, yeah, the Pepsi one.
Yes. So that was the kind of fake authenticity that brands really need to stay away from.
Right.
It was very controversial.
Yes.
Right. They're trying to be hip and relevant, but they miss the point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pepsi isn't going to save the world, unfortunately.
And speaking of which, of controversy, and also about tackling, engaging with social issues, some global brands are trying to do a lot more and engage in social issues. So what are your thoughts here?
Yeah.
Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I think that when global brands are trying to think about social issues, they really have to be careful because, like I said, with the pride thing, a lot of companies are trying to jump onto this bandwagon of, ooh, it's really cool to be involved in a cause. So let's pick a cause that, is going to generate the most money for us. And how do we be involved? Let's buy some floats and let's change our logo to represent, our affiliation. But all of that goes away when you look deep and the issues that are involved with these social causes aren't changing. You can buy a float for pride, but what does that essentially do for the reason for celebrating pride? Which is that these group of people are marginalized and still to this day are being killed in certain places just for what they believe and who they are.
Just what they were born.
Right, just for the way that they were born. And so, when global brands want to identify and I think now there's this push for really trying to foster consumer relationships, right? They really need to be careful about not becoming too profit-driven and understanding how to develop that trust, especially with younger generations.
And they need to do it for the right reason.
Yeah, and they need to do it for the right reason.
They kind of, for lack of a better term, they need to put their money where their mouth is.
Right, because it's really easy actually to see when a company, like we said, is trying to push for something, but
it looks fake.
It looks fake, yeah. You can feel that. Just in the same way, if you met someone and they were really trying to portray themselves in a very, fake way, you can often feel that.
And that goes right back to that kind of relatability conversation we were having too.
Yes.
So if a brand is really trying to connect with their audience, but they're going about it in a very kind of bad way, like maybe just changing a logo or not, maybe one tweet, people are going to notice that. And there's this whole kind of culture now, good or bad, especially on places like Twitter, where if a hashtag boycott brand gets trending, a lot of people are going to see that.
Yes.
And so one wrong move and a company could have a PR crisis on their hands. Yes. So you really have to do it for the right reasons, and you really have to have the right people helping you out with it.
That's why marketing is so important.
Exactly.
And investing in social causes can actually increase return of investment. Maybe not in the short term, but in the long term, and that's something that companies really have to think about. It's not just about how are we going to get back what we're putting in now. It's about how are we going to get back, but also, in the long run, create that lasting relationship with our consumers.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Now, we're talking about your favorite social media and content. So with video, audio, and the written word all competing together to get your attention, as you mentioned, it is 3 seconds, or maybe a little bit more. The first 2 paragraphs. What type of content do you find the most interesting?
So we were talking about earlier how you kind of start your morning with Facebook, right? And you get your news and memes and everything on there. That's a great example of kind of that mixed kind of content. There's no separation between images, videos, and text anymore. You go on a place like, I start my morning with Google News, and there's videos on there, there's articles, and it's all curated towards me and what I want to see, which is a good and bad thing, and that's a separate discussion because there's the risk of kind of staying in that bubble. But at the same time, I will go ahead and read places like the New York Times on there, and it's all in one place. So I think the print industry is not doing so well with millennials and Gen Zs anymore, just because I have an entire encyclopedia in my phone Like, there's a supercomputer in my pocket, which is nuts. Even 10 years ago, you wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah.
But kind of getting back to the point, videos have always been the kind of content that I really, really enjoy. If a brand can make a really powerful ad that kind of makes me feel something, I'm going to want to go look into what they're trying to sell me. If they're just trying to do the whole infomercial kind of QVC generic, just buy this, I don't really, it's not going to, impact my life at all.
What about you, Kayla? Do you feel a little bit different? Did you, generation-wise, not that you're so far apart, but do you think slightly different, do you have a different feeling?
I don't necessarily, I actually relate with Kaelan a lot, that I think videos are actually a really powerful way to capture someone's attention. But I think that even more so, even with videos, there is a lot of content that's out there. And so if you're producing a video, what really captures my attention is if it is different. And it's so hard to kind of push through all of the mess of content that's out there.
Because there's so much.
Because, there's so much. We're living in an era where it's information overload. Everywhere we are, there's, billboards, there's on our phone, on every platform, there's ads, and multiple ads at that, within the content, on the side of the content. So it's about kind of, how do you make yourself different? How do you produce a video that is different? Like when we were doing the Project Sparkle videos, one of the videos that stood out was, it was an HR video, but it was actually poking fun at typical HR videos. So, they were pointing out all the typical things that would be in an HR video and kind of out loud just saying it.
Very interesting strategy,
Yeah, and it was different. And so it made you it captured my attention in that way. And so all the 10 videos that I watched, that's the one that stuck out. Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're sorry, you can see. Now, just before we finish the interview, do you feel that being part of the Vistatec team, the marketing department, and the Vistatec internship program really has been of benefit to you? If you had to kind of
without a doubt, yes. Especially when we were talking about how at the end of this term, I'm going to have at least 5 or 6 pieces of really good content that I'll have my name on and it'll be associated with. And so even that and the kind of just connections I've made on platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter and doing this, this is amazing. It's going to have more impact to my career 4 or 5 years down the line than any other kind of internship I've ever done before or will probably do after this could.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely. I definitely feel that, I have a plethora of new skills that I have under my belt that I can take on with me. And, being in this kind of work environment where I'm constantly being challenged to think outside of the box and to produce new ideas and, to be able to manage all the tasks that are, coming towards my way, it puts me in a very creative mental state to kind of really challenge myself. Okay, what do I need to do? How should I do it?
How should
all
I
of
approach
this
it?
stuff.
And yes.
Right.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you very much. Last question. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today's episode?
Can't think of much. Just thank you for having us again. This has been awesome.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
We're delighted to have you.
Yeah.
And yes, if you're interested in applying for an internship at Vistatec, whether it's in the marketing team or any other department, feel free to contact Vistatec, vistatecmarketing@vistatec.com, and we'd be delighted to have a chat with you. And we hope you enjoyed today's episode with Kayla Kim and Kaelan Guetschow, our 2 marketing interns for the summer. Thank you so much for being with us today. And
thank you so much.
And if you want to see any more of what we've been up to this summer, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all the kind of normal
and Facebook
platforms.
Yes.
I'm at Kaylan Guetschow. I guess you can do yours if you want.
I'm at K Kim with the one instead of the I on Instagram. And you can find me on LinkedIn if you have any questions.
Feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to talk to you guys.
yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that's the end of today's show with Kayla and Kaelan, our two marketing interns. We will be, please make sure to tune in again for more Vistatec's interview, where we'll be back for more interesting discussions with interesting people from all around the world. Thank you.
Thank you.